Well, since Tom put the finishing touches to that piece, literally within the last few minutes, the deal has been approved. And the question is really, is it a good first step or a missed opportunity? And to debate that, I'm joined by Liz Hutchins of Friends of the Earth and Baroness Worthington, Labour's climate change spokesperson. Baroness Worthington first. Historic deal, or is what is agreed still going to mean catastrophe for parts of the planet?
Well, first of all, we've got to be realistic about what we can expect from a multilateral UN process. And in terms of that, it's been a huge success. I mean, you compare it to previous COPs, such as Copenhagen, which ended
COPs meaning the talks,
meaning the conferences that ended in really everyone falling out, terrible politics. This has been a complete success by comparison, and so many people have played a role in making this a success that it is today. But it is truly a tectonic shift. I completely agree with that.
1.5, 2 degrees warming still means disaster for, storms, flooding, drought.
We have a lot of impacts already baked into the process because we've been emitting since the Industrial Revolution, and we are going to see some impacts. But this signals the first time that all countries have shown that they're serious about this issue and they're going to take action together to solve it.
Ms Hutchins, that's historic, isn't it?
Well, this is a really significant moment because for the first time, the richest countries have listened to what the poorest countries have been saying for some time, which is that we need to keep temperatures below 1.5 degrees. But what the real problem is with this deal is that it's meant to be a plan to keep those temperatures low, but the world leaders have not come up with a plan that's going to deliver that.
Well, that is the point, isn't it? This 1.5 degrees commitment. It's very woolly, isn't it? It's not binding.
It's not that woolly. I mean, it's challenging and it's going to be really hard to get there.
But it's an endeavour rather than
it's brought forward the focus. So up until now, the convention on UN Climate Change Convention talked about 2 degrees being the aim, avoiding dangerous climate change. And now they've been much more explicit about it being 1.5. That means more urgent action. It means that the IPCC, the big scientific body, will go away and write a report about 1.5, and then it will set carbon budgets on that basis.
Keeping warming to 1.5 rather than 2 doesn't sound much, but it is a big deal, isn't it, that?
I mean, it's huge. At the moment, we've seen world temperatures rise by 1 degree since the Industrial Revolution, and we're seeing superstorms, droughts, flooding that are displacing millions of people from their homes. In fact, there's evidence that shows that the drought around Syria has been part of the pressure that's contributed to that war. So 1 degree is very, very dangerous. Imagine what it would be like at 1.5 or 2 degrees. And
but you don't believe people will stick to it?
Well, what's actually on the table in terms of the money that's needed for investment and the pledges of action to cut carbon in all of the countries around the world at the moment adds up to nearer to 3 degrees global warming. And that's what the problem is with these talks. There's a recognition that 1.5 degrees is where we're aiming for, but surely then there's a responsibility, particularly of the richest countries that are the ones that are responsible for creating the problem. They should have stepped up and made the commitments to make sure that there's the investment for poorer countries to go low carbon.
The richer countries aren't doing enough.
Well, they're not doing enough, that's true, but they're lowballing. They've all put in pledges that they know that they can exceed. And the great thing about this deal is that there's a 5-year review built in, so that basically we're going to ratchet up from where we are now. I mean, all of these pledges were put in on a voluntary basis. That's why we've got the participation of 180 plus countries. And basically what we've got here now is a balance between making it easy enough for people to sign up, but tough enough that they are all on the track together.
But the reviews could be just more words rather than action.
Well, actually, let's take the EU for an example. The EU target translates into hard caps on our industries. So if we review that target and we make it more challenging, that will directly affect boardroom decisions about how we spend money and what we invest in. So those ratchets are so important, and they're baked into this deal. Every 5 years, starting in 2018, there'll be a review. We can get back on track with this deal.
Not much wriggle room.
Well, 2018 is too far away. Actually, we need to have very, very serious cuts in carbon starting right away. And one of the problems is the UK government has gone to these talks being the only G7 country which is boosting tax breaks for fossil fuels and slashing support for renewable energy.
And that's also phased out coal, right? So, I'm no defender of this government, and but that is a pretty historic deal. We started the Industrial Revolution, and going into these talks, we said we're going to phase out coal by 2023. Now that is pretty good, and you've been campaigning for that.
They said they're going to phase out coal by 2025, and that is when it was predicted to go off the system anyway. And actually, what they said is they're going to replace coal with gas, not with renewable energy, which is where we need to go.
Well, I think we can see some live pictures now of the deal being cheered. So a lot of applause and a bit of backslapping there. But the fact is that politicians have now got to be honest, haven't they, in this country and elsewhere, that this deal will cost British householders more, won't it?
Well, you know, let's define cost. It's pretty costly to be chucking greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and causing the kind of damage we've just seen in Cumbria.
But a lot of people think that's way off. You know, a lot of householders will worry about their bills, and this will mean more on the bills, won't it?
Well, you've got to compare it to what it would be otherwise. And otherwise, you're going to be spending, maybe you're getting cheaper power, but you're paying loads more in damages, not just here, but in the developing world. And as Liz mentioned, this is going to destabilise regions of the world that we can't see destabilise any further. So, you know, cost is a very interesting word. And really what we're doing here is taking out an insurance policy for the future and indeed for the present day. So, you know, bills, actually, if you invest in energy efficiency, they don't even need to rise.
Liz Hutchins and Baroness Worthington, thank you very much both for joining me.